Hi, I am Anna. I come from www.ntvforex.com. Samp P 500 Weekly Forecast Best August since 1986. How will September start? Analysis. http ntvforex.com. News ID 82384 830 2020 7:35 p.m. At a new closing high, the NBSP Samp P 500 index is heading into September on a very solid footing. Themes for the week ahead include critical U.S. economic performance updates, domestic politics, the Fed put and NBSP the race for a COVID-19 vaccine. Following a series of outstanding monthly performances, despite the worst recession in modern times, the Samp P 500 has so far added 6.6% for the month of August, which brings the average percentage gain for the past 5 months to over 6%. The index is heading into September on a very solid footing, having added half of this month's gains in just the past week, ending up 0.67% on Friday, bringing the index to be 3.3% higher for the week. The index reached fresh highs and was also rising for a fifth consecutive week. NBSP at 3,508.01, it was marking a new closing high. NBSP up from last week's closing level of 3,397.16. There will be just 1 day left to go for the month, with NBSP little time to reflect on it as the NBSP September gets going with plenty on the radar to factor in. The themes include critical U.S. economic performance updates, domestic politics as the U.S. elections more to the fore, and an abundance of geopolitical risks to weigh. NBSP. The NBSP apparent disconnect between financial markets on the economic data front. NBSP. The NBSP apparent disconnect between financial markets and the real economy has left many commentators dumbfounded whether the data is good or bad. Wall Street's indexes, to date, have moved higher, brushing aside high-frequency and regular economic releases. NBSP if not consistent with the V-shaped recovery narrative. The swift rebound in equity prices over the past few months has taken many by surprise, although, one could argue that continued policy support will be sufficient to avoid the mass bankruptcies which were presumed by the same many, and that earnings growth has not been structurally damaged. The relationship between stock prices and macroeconomic performance is not straightforward, and NBSP major equity indices are not a perfect reflection of the domestic economy. We can take the ICT sector for an example. NBSP 38% of the Samp P 500 index is made up of companies belonging to the NBSP sector, while the sector direct contribution to GDP was less than 10% in 20,171. NBSP generally, pricing of stocks is a complex relationship between the expectations of economic performance, relative valuations, and uncertainty. Today, we can definitely pin the coronavirus below the uncertainty tab, but with it comes opportunities which have been NBSP carrying Wall Street through the crisis. For example, sectors that have benefited from the change in social behaviors are the NBSP communication services, which had the largest percentage gain last week, up 4.8%, followed closely by a 4.5% increase in technology, another major beneficiary of the crisis. NBSP. It is true that the giants such as NBSP Apple have been hugely compensating for the worst performing sectors, and NBSP without Apple, the Samp P would be up only 4.1% on the month, not 6.8%. However, NBSP the small cap Russell 2000 is also up about 6% for August, and high-yield corporate funds are outperforming all other bond market classes, which are indicating that the market is definitely not presuming an NBSP imminent economic meltdown. Instead, hopes of a vaccine and a new lower for longer framework at the Federal Reserve are keeping the cogs turning. However, now that the Fed put has been confirmed by last week's Jackson Hole and can be officially written into the playbook, perhaps the rally based on that assumption has already come too far. After all, the Fed's easy month narrative had NBSP been well telegraphed for long enough and priced in. For the stock market to contour higher from this point on, it may not be down to the tech giants or the Fed, as this is becoming a little old by now. Stock markets thrive on momentum-building catalysts and tend to burn out when the story comes to fruition. This is otherwise. Buy the news and sell the fact. NBSP we could start to see that if it would not be masked by improving data releases or even a vaccine, which will make NBSP the next chapter and final month of the year on Wall Street a cliffhanger as we head into the US elections in November. NBSP While there has been an all-time record in a 12% contraction of NBSP gross domestic product in the US, should the consumer continue to prove resilient, NBSP then what is to say we could not see NBSP wartime boom and GDP bounce back with, say, and 20% we have already started to see signs of from the bounces in retail sales, housing and auto data as well as an improvement in unemployment claims. However, until a vaccine, the consumer and businesses are going to remain nervous, so until that time, it could be an even more rocky road from this point on, despite the Fed confirming the new lower for longer regime. NBSP a safe and effective vaccine by November, December. This brings us to the latest news on the vaccine front that could help September to get off on the front foot and August's solid foundations. The race is on and we have AstraZeneca in combination with Oxford University BioNTech SE NBSP and partner Pfizer PFE, as well as GlaxoSmithKline GSK, Johnson AMP Johnson Merck AMP CO, Moderna and Sanofi NBSP among those currently working toward COVID-19 vaccines. Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, said this weekend to the Times newspaper in the UK, I would say a safe bet is at least knowing that you have a safe and effective vaccine by November, December. On that note, the market will be encouraged to start the week. On the other hand, should there now come a vaccine by the end of the year, the markets will be very deflated head into the new year. Without a steady pickup in the economic recovery or the Fed put theme NBSP to carry the indexes over the gain lines, it could well be the making for a winter of discontent in global financial NBSP markets. What is in store for the week ahead? For the week ahead, we can first look to the economic calendar. Not only do we have crucial IMS indexes, but we also have the highly anticipated non-farm payrolls numbers. Analysts at TD Securities explained their forecast on both payrolls probably rose strongly by pre-COVID standards, but with the pace slowing again. Our forecast implies a decline of 11.9 MN since February, down from 22.2 MN through April but still consistent with a huge net increase in slack. Our forecast allows for about a 240K rise in temporary census workers. The unemployment rate likely remained historically high. For the ISM services and manufacturing, the analysts said the ISM indexes likely remained fairly high, even with a decline in the services index. Still, positive readings have been signaled by business surveys already released for early August, with more data for manufacturing than services. That said, we suspect momentum will fade as fiscal support wanes. Samp P 500 levels. The market structures on the weekly chart are showing some compelling confluence with the Fibonacci retracement levels should there indeed be a meaningful correction in the near NBSP future. NBSP a hold above the prior 202 highs and weekly support structure leave the bulls in control. However, a test below there opens prospects for a 50% NBSP mean reversion towards the 3,200 area. NBSP a break below the 61.8% Fibonacci and the summer resistances of June and July months, then the dynamic support of a 21 weekly moving average will be in jeopardy. NBSP. Subscribe our channel to receive the news as soon as possible. Thank you for watching. If you want to read real-time news, text messages to MT5 Expert Advisors page at https://m.me/mt5.expert.advisors.